It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Fast break the other way. Right side, Jamal Murray blows by Baisley to the rim, reverse side rim rocker for Jamal Murray. Knee surgery? I say not. Yerksaven rolling to the basket, wide open miscommunication by Denver, and he dunks it home. Omier having a good offensive game, 14, along with 9 rebounds and 2 assists. Here's Talen Horton-Tucker, 7 seconds left. He's got 21 tonight, steps back for 3. He hit again! THT with a little TNT! Explosion in Salt Lake. 101-90, Jamal Murray 2 in a row, 3 in a row. He bounces up and down on his left leg as he fires with his right hand. Looks over at fellow Canadian Scott Morrison and has put the Nuggets up by 14.
Utah Jazz lose to the Denver Nuggets 111-95. PK, that was probably the first quarter you expected. It was 34-17. The Jazz got back within 3. That was surprising. Hadn't seen them do that in a while. Then Denver pulled away and won by 16.
Who's Scott Morrison? Said Jamal Murray. Look over at fellow Canadian Scott Morrison.
He's a Canadian.
I know, but who?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is he a referee? Is he a player? Fan?
Some guy up in row 17.
Well, you can't throw out a name without at the Walter Cronkite School. If you put out a name, you got to identify that person.
Scott Morrison, Usher,
comma. Yeah, I need to know who Scott Morrison is. Yeah, well then it's so typical. And then they won the second quarter, and they won the third quarter,
and then they got blown out in the fourth quarter.
Groundhog Day. When the other team relaxes, then they get back in the game. 3
more, yeah. When Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic sit down, they had a fighting chance. They got 3 more Groundhog Days, and then school's out for the summer.
But I suspect that Will Hardy might be called in the office today because in the postgame he said the Delta Center.
No, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Going to the principal's office.
That could be the end of him.
On the list of things he has to worry about that now, I hope that's pretty far down.
He's got nothing to worry about. He's skating free now. He can't be judged by this.
He really can't.
Yeah,
he can be judged by 26 and 26 and winning 16 out of 20. And then they took all the players away.
And why does THT just turn it on every April?
Back to your thing about the level of competition. And it's
well, this is the Nuggets. You're not getting any higher level competition there.
Turn it on when the other guys are off the floor.
Yeah, but he didn't score all of his points
right
when the 2 All-Stars were sitting on the bench. There's no way that
Wouldn't you
happened.
like to know how many times he broke the offense while getting off his 22 shots and only having 2 assists? I mean, that's the kind of stat line that had Keontae George getting criticized. 5 turnovers, 2 assists. And 1 assist when he was going to drive and he bobbled the ball and lost
Man, you
it.
really hate this guy, huh?
Turned around and gave it to somebody who hit a 3.
He's not your guy.
No, he's not my guy.
You don't even think he should be on the team or even play.
I don't think he's going to be on the team.
You don't think he should be on the team now?
Somebody's got to be on the team now. Might as well be him. Jazz in Houston tomorrow night. The last regular season home game. You know somebody who has tickets?
I don't think I put regular season in there because they ain't having any postseason.
Hit him up. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
Needless to say, GA, this is of major concern here. Giannis Antetokounmpo just sits down to stop play. Now, best case scenario, let's just hope it's a cramp of the calf.
This would be the first time in NBA history that a team did not attempt a free throw.
Shea spins baseline, doesn't have much room, needs teammates' help. Shot clock's at 6. Bullies his way free and fires one up from 18 feet away and then made it.
Westbrook left corner, a 3 for the triple-double. Hits! Russell Westbrook, his 199th career triple-double.
Highlights from around the NBA and the low light. Giannis Antetokounmpo in the backcourt, all by himself, suddenly going to the floor, holding the back of his leg. But the Bucs say it was a calf strain, not an Achilles.
It didn't look like an Achilles. It looked like some type of cramp.
Some type of cramp?
Yeah.
Doc Rivers said a high level of concern, but then the Bucs said, nope. It's not the Achilles. It's the calf. So that's good news. Want to see the Stars in the playoffs, and sounds like he'll need a little time, but he's got a little time. He's got the rest of this week and then next week with the play-in, so hopefully he'll be good to go. A weird game. The Bucs and Celtics combined for a record low 2 free throws, and the Boston Celtics are the first team in NBA history to not shoot a free throw. Weird. How could that possibly happen?
Game lasted all of 1 hour and 57 minutes as well.
Let's get through this. We think we're going to see each other in the playoffs. We show nothing now. Just run to each end, shoot threes. Bucks end up winning 104-91. Bizarre, but there you go. For some reason, Antetokounmpo went and shot 2 free throws, and nobody else did the entire game. Suns got off to a terrible start. 4 points in the first 11 minutes, trailing 35-4 against the Clippers. They end up losing 105-92. 35-4, not your average NBA score, PK.
Well, yeah, shots didn't go in. I think they're sort of playing out the string. I've said for weeks I didn't think they were anything close to be a contender. I'm not going to go by one game, as well. See, there's conclusive proof. I just don't think they have enough.
At the top of the West, obviously, Denver won because they beat the Jazz. Minnesota keeping pace. They beat the Wizards 130-121. Anthony Edwards, 51 points.
He a player, man.
Minnesota and Denver tied for the top spot, and Oklahoma City is a game back. The Thunder beat the Kings 112-105. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a 40-point game in that one. So they're the big three in the West. Memphis Grizzlies star John Morant had a judge rule that Morant fairly raised self-defense in a lawsuit filed by a teenager he punched in July of 2022. The legal team for the teenager said they're disappointed, but they'll forge ahead with the lawsuit's next step.
Right, because he's got money, and I want some of it.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college basketball.
Since our season ended, Ellen and I have spent a lot of time thinking about our time here at Kentucky. The last few weeks, we've come to realize that this program probably needs to hear another voice, that the university as a whole has to have another voice giving guidance about this program that they hear. And the fans need to hear another voice. We've loved it here, but we think it's time for us to step away and step away completely from the program. There have been opportunities that have been presented to us, and we're discussing them as a family.
John Calipari formally announcing his departure from Lexington. He's in the final stages of signing a deal to join the Arkansas Razorbacks. Meanwhile, Kentucky media is out there doing things saying, well, he got the offer and came in and said, hey, I'm going to take this. What are you going to do for me if you don't? And they were like, take it.
So he took it?
So he took it. On to Arkansas. Chicago Bulls coach Billy Donovan said he has not had any contact with the University of Kentucky about its men's basketball coaching vacancy and reiterated his commitment to the Bulls prior to the team's game last night against the prior to the Bulls game last night. Donovan was an assistant coach at Kentucky from 89 to 93. I watched that, PK. Never said he wasn't going to Kentucky. He just said he hadn't talked to anybody, and he's committed. And you have experience in coaching searches before. Somebody can say they haven't talked to anybody, but a third party's handling everything, so they don't have to.
Yeah, Melinda.
Melinda?
Well, John has Ellen. Billy has Melinda. I assume Ellen is his wife. I mean, there's plenty of ways to get around that, so we'll see. Scott Drew's name been out there. Some people said that he's been offered, so we'll see what happens there. And I think we got to pay tribute to Tara Vanderveer, man. She retired, 70 years old, won over 1,200 games. Not at Stanford exclusively. 3 NCAA titles, 14 Final Fours. The list of accomplishments goes on and on. A storied career. She's getting out at a great time.
Right before Stanford goes into the ACC.
Yeah, who wants to do that?
not Tara Vanderveer.
Yeah.
And why? I'm good.
Yeah, for sure. Right, yeah. Thinking, wow, that was.
What about
they
that?
They made it easy for you.
What about that road trip to Syracuse? Not doing it. Not doing it.
Right.
Thanks.
In the winter, no less.
I know.
Yeah. So she's been quite the coach, as a standard there for so long. I've interviewed her many times over the years, coming through for teams that I was assigned to cover their games. So a true legend in college basketball.
38 seasons at Stanford. That's an incredible run. 45 as a coach, but 38 at Stanford.
Right. She was at Idaho and someplace else. Where was it? Someplace else. Oh, Ohio State. Ohio State, yeah, that's it. She went from Idaho to Ohio State to Stanford.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
Dallas Cowboys star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb said he could sit out off-season workouts with the team, possibly hold out a training camp as he seeks a long-term contract extension. Lamb was an All-Pro last season, is entering the final season of his deal. But when asked by TMZ about his future, he said, quote, "Yeah, I'll be in Dallas." Closed quote. Always with the wide receivers, PK. This is low-level drama, at least right now. We'll see if it escalates. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Yeah, it still is. Isaac Wilson has done a great job assimilating the offense and getting everything digested. Brandon Rose has played his best football as a youth this spring, so he's a big plus for us. And really, it's those two guys that are battling for a 2 and 3.
That's Kyle Whittingham addressing the media after a youth spring practice. He did make it clear he's not ruling out going to the portal for another quarterback.
He never rules out anything, though. Yeah. That's the standard. Why would he rule that out?
You think he'll do it?
Well, who's available? I mean, I don't. If someone's available and want to come, yes, I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, he
those two things, available and want to come.
He can't control that.
Right. But you came in the morning after the bowl game. Ooh, is there a problem with backup quarterback? I mean,
yeah.
Brandon Rose, why wouldn't he play? The way that game was going, and to hear he's not ready after all the time in the program was a red flag.
Right. Yeah. And a freshman who's been on campus for a few weeks is running neck and neck with you.
Not a good sign.
Makes me a little nervous.
You've been in the program. You've had a lot of time to assimilate the offense. And
yeah, it's your third year.
Presumably the freshman's starting at square one and needs time like most freshmen.
That's not to say that Rose can't come in there and clean up when his time is called at some point. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't play this year, then what's the point with him? And they've had a number of kids that they've recruited that literally never got out on the field. So, I mean, let's face it, with them and quarterbacks, you have to have a certain apprehension. I mean, they don't just roll. They're not a quarterback factory by any stretch, and they've had a number of recruits that just never even come close to getting on the field, and they leave. And a lot of them don't do anything anywhere else. I don't care what some pizza guy gave as a star ranking. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And if I'm a quarterback, depending on my situation, I would take a look at that because Rising obviously cannot go for 14 years. He's got to leave at some point. And so the job will be open next year. You would think. And I've said this all the time. If you have an established starter, when he leaves, if the job then isn't open, you've done a poor job recruiting. It should be open. That's the time it should be open. So the point is, if somebody comes in and the transfer thing between now and August, you'll have an opportunity to compete for the backup then, and depending on what happens, you would have an opportunity a year from now.
To be the starter.
Yeah. And they've got a premier program, so I would think that wouldn't shock me at all. And if they don't get a transfer now, then maybe down the line.
Oregon star running back Damian Martinez Oregon State star running back Damian Martinez expected to enter the NCAA transfer portal when the window opens. He was second in the Pac-12, ran for almost 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, reportedly in line to make more than $400,000 in name, image, and likeness deals this year. But the rest of college football looking at Oregon State and Washington State as they try to put the Pac-12 back together and picking off any player they can. And Damian Martinez looks like quite the get, so we'll see where he ends up. Assume he's going to end up at a school with a lot of NIL and a pretty strong brand.
So Oregon?
Man, a running back like that, it wouldn't surprise me if he went anywhere. Sure, I guess Oregon, yeah. Why not? Or Washington. But does he have to stay on the West Coast? I wouldn't think so.
No.
He runs for
There's
almost,
not a law that says he has to.
He runs for almost 1,200 yards. Let the bidding begin.
Of course, Oregon State is a running team.
A Florida judge denied the ACC's motion to stay Florida State's lawsuit against the conference. The decision comes 1 week after a judge in North Carolina ruled the ACC's lawsuit against Florida State can proceed. Florida State has challenged the ACC's grant of rights and the withdrawal fee from the league. See if the ACC can hold it together, or if this is just all prelude to the settlement that it feels like is coming.
Once I hear the words grant of rights,
you checked out.
Yeah.
He's out.
I'm a sports fan, not a grant of rights fans.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Leclerc's pitch, swung on, fly ball, left center field and deep. Back is Jankowski at the wall. A 3, homer night for Shea Langoliers. The Keller Kid delivers. It's 4-3 Oakland.
High fly ball, hit to deep left center field. Forget about it. Long gone. A grand slam home run. Christopher Morel.
Salvi rips it. Left center field. Down into the gap. That's a base hit. Hampson takes off for third. He rounds the bag. The Astros don't even bother to pick it up. Hampson scores standing. The Royals win the game. El Capitan comes through in the clutch.
The Royals beat the Astros 4-3 in 10 innings. Salvador Perez walking it off. Yankees win again. They are off to a great start, 10-2. They edge the Marlins, who are now 1-11, 3-2. Yankees picking up the win. The best and the worst here at the start of the season getting together, and it's all Yankees. You heard the A's in there, 4-3 winners over the Rangers. Tyler Glasnow strikes out 14. Dodgers win again. They beat Minnesota 6-3. Salt Lake Bees taking it to the Aviators, 12-2. The Bees rolling in Game 1 in their 6-game series. Same two teams tonight. First pitch, 8:05. Tony Park's on the air at 7:50 with the pregame here on The Zone. That is what is trending. There are the headlines. Coming up next, Hot Takes or Toast. We will get you the question of the day. Bob Casper joins us at 8 o'clock. The Masters draft from Augusta, Georgia. And at 9 o'clock, Britton Covey, Philadelphia Eagles punt returner, wide receiver, Ute legend, Tim VUI product. He'll join us at 9 o'clock. Plus, it's a Win Tickets Wednesday, and we're giving away tickets to see Sam Hunt at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. That is coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, right here on The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
It's not official. Obviously, an agreement has to be made on a sale. An agreement has to be made with the NHL to relocate the franchise. The owners of the NHL have to agree to that. They have to have a vote, I believe, to relocate a franchise. There's a lot of things that have to be done. But an announcement of a sale could be coming very, very soon. And all signs point to that franchise being sold to Ryan Smith and being moved to Utah. Get ready for NHL hockey, Utah fans, here in 2024-2025. Starting in October, you may have an NHL hockey team in this market. And that is so exciting.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hot Takes or Toast is brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. Question of the morning. Here comes the Masters. Tiger says he can win it. A 16th major, a 6th Master Championship. Can it be?
No.
No. You guys played 2 rounds of competitive golf on tour this year.
But I would love to see it. There's nothing more I want to see.
It'd be an awesome story for someone who's played in one tournament, withdrew because he was ill, and has played 2 rounds. You got 36 holes of golf under your belt, and then you come out and you win the Masters. That would be the Cinderella story.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be as much Cinderella as Joe Blow. It's because of him.
Tony says golf ability and mental toughness, yes. Physically, probably not. But being able to watch him since the beginning is the best thing in golf, and I root for him in every tournament he plays.
The pain you're under, is it a constant when you're out there on the course? Is it worse here? And are you playing with painkillers?
I hurt every day.
Yeah.
So yes, I ache. No, I ache every day, and I prefer it warm and humid and hot. And I know we're getting some thunderstorms, so at least it'll be hot.
Patrick, Tiger won't win, but it would be magical.
It would. It has to be him. He's the ultimate story. And that's what's really cool. He's been the ultimate story for so many years. And he still is. And if he were to pull this off, it would be the greatest feat in the history of golf.
Alan, what a story that would be. 2 exclamation points. But Alan isn't going to go out on a limb and predict anything. Nor are the rest of us.
No.
But that would just be something. That'd be like conjuring it up out of thin air.
What do you mean?
For him to win. I mean, he hurts every day. You watch him walk, and you believe him. I bet it does hurt every day.
Yeah, but Will Zalatoris said that he's seen him play, and he looked great.
Freddie Couples said the same thing.
Freddie Couples.
No one's going to say.
Roommate with Jim Nash. Well, you don't have to say anything, though. That drives me nuts. No one's going to say he sucks. Okay, I got that. But that doesn't mean you have to say something.
How did he look? Oh, he looked great.
Now, Freddie's track record is always positive about Tiger when they played in Augusta.
And it's always negative about Liv. I'm just tired of Fred.
Yep. Bingo.
Don't ask him. You already know what the answer is going to be. Greg says he's got at least one last win left. See, that's different than winning the Masters. Do you buy that?
Well, that's certainly obviously different. I don't know if I buy that either, though.
What do you feel like you're capable of doing this week? What do you believe that you can do this week?
If everything comes together, I think I can get one more.
Yeah. And he's talking about, I believe, one more Masters, not one more Honda Classic.
Correct.
So I do think that could happen. I just don't know if he's ready right now. It doesn't seem to be that he is ready right now.
He's not meeting his own standard, and he's adjusted his standard for what he's feeling and what he's been through and where his body is now. But his standard was, I'm going to play once a month. That was his schedule he wanted to put out there for himself, and obviously he hasn't been able to meet it.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's not been just sitting around, and he's only played 2 rounds the entire whatever length of time you want to assign to it. So
this calendar year is what I was assigning to it.
Okay, but I'm sure he's done more than that, and hitting balls and working on his body with stretching and other forms of routines that he must go through because he obviously can afford the best of the best when it comes to medical and physical and all those types of people who can help him, dietary, you name it. Whatever he wants, he certainly obviously can get it. So, I don't think that he signs up to play if in his mind he thinks he's a joke and an embarrassment. Because why do that? He doesn't need to do that. He can go on his $200 million yacht and never be heard from again and would be the most captivating golfer, certainly of his time, and most arguably of all time. And what he's done for the game is obviously unparalleled. Now, you could flip it and just say, well, if Jack had done it now with all the media attention and everything that's available, he would have done. I understand that. But he had his time, and Tiger did it in a time when, everything is magnified. And if there should somebody else come along in 25, 30, 40 years and has the dominance, then you could say he or she did more. But then you combine the personality that he had and the competitiveness and all the shots that ring in our minds and our eyes and visions of him walking in a putt and pointing. It's just legendary. The Nike ball sitting there for an hour and a half before it goes in the hole. It's unparalleled. And then, he didn't fit the typical profile, at least physically looking, and the charismatic nature in which he has. I mean, that's the thing about Scheffler. Scheffler is a great player, but he's given Dustin Johnson a run for being boring.
Move over, Dustin.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nobody's going to match Tiger's charisma and his golf. Who even comes in the ballpark? Phil had a lot of charisma.
Nobody on tour right now.
Yeah.
And Phil was the closest. But I think he'll turn 54 here in June. You just don't do that at that age. You can have a moment, and he had one a couple years back. Phil did. He won at 51, right? So good for him. But in Tiger's mind, and maybe it's just fooling, but in his mind, he believes he can do it if things come together. And see, it's not about a run here. It's about 4 days.
And winning.
Yeah.
Not doing the Tom Watson that was miraculously close, but second.
Oh, even that would send
shockwaves through the game.
People off a cliff of excitement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I would absolutely love to see it. There's no doubt about it. 100% would love to see it. Don't think it's possible, but wouldn't put it past him. But I would bet no more than $1.
Steve says he's the GOAT, but he can't finish a round anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he's the GOAT, though.
That's still Jack.
Yeah.
Just have to take the title best golfer of the 21st century. Wait and see if anyone can take that away from him over the next 76 years.
Well, over a 30-year period.
Yeah.
But to me, GOAT, I never really got into that. I've always believed top 5. If you're top 5, that is more than good enough. Because then you start splitting hairs, who's this, who's that, and it's dependent upon the person and his or her allegiances that they may have and fandom and all that stuff. To me, top 5 is very impressive.
Who are your other top 5?
You don't need to go look it up.
Yeah, I'm going to. Ben Hogan. I haven't even looked it up yet. You're going to go Hogan, right?
Once you started with the digits, you knew that that's what was coming. You were looking it up. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, you can obviously Jack and Tiger. So who are the other 3? You're getting. This is a game that's been around for a long time, and you're getting into people that I literally never saw take a swing, and I see some videos. But you got to look at the list.
Well, Tiger's lapped them all, except for Jack.
And there might be some argument who's 4, who's 5, who's 6, who's 7, but that's okay. That's sports. There should be an argument. If there's not an argument, that doesn't make it as fun.
Then ask another question.
Yeah.
If top 5 is really clear, then make it top 10.
Yeah.
Because like you said, over 140 years of golf, top 10, you're no slouch.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Yeah. I would want there to be an argument. Who's the best? Fill in the blank. Who's your 5 NBA starters? Who's your 10 best NBA players? If there's not an argument, the sport suffers. The sport, I don't know that you necessarily need it, but it's good for the sport if you have an argument. If you got 5 people there and you ask them top 10, whatever, top 5, whatever, and you have 12 different people, I think that's good for the sport because that's what makes it fun. And I don't necessarily know that there's a right or wrong, but it's more fun if you have. If you don't have, then I think you get into what you get into tennis a little bit in its heydays. It's like it was the same people winning over and over again. and that's dominance, and that's awesome, but I don't think it's necessarily good for the sport. In the moment it might be, but in the moment it is, but when Serena leaves, she takes everything with her.
It leaves a vacuum.
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens with women's college basketball this year, right? Because this was the best year ever, the best season they've ever had. The numbers back it up, the excitement, everything about it, every metric would indicate that 23-24 was the best ever in women's basketball, right? I've got no problem saying absolutely. It was sincere. I watched more women's basketball that didn't involve the locals than I ever have. And I think there's millions of people who can say the same
exact thing. You can start with me.
Yeah, right.
And then you can move over to Jake.
Right. And so then you go, and Dawn Staley said that about Caitlin Clark. All right, what happens next year? Is this a flash in the pan? So that's the same thing with tennis. When name your favorite tennis player, when he or she is dominating, it's awesome in the moment, but we know, obviously, all these players, their time will come. Now, for Clark, her time has come in college. We'll see what happens at the professional level. But this was awesome. This was incredible. This was a one of a kind. Hopefully for their sport, next year can be just as good. I have my serious doubts because she was just that good.
Feels a little like the Bird Magic thing. It elevated the sport, but you can't ever match the Bird Magic hype.
But you don't want a massive, massive drop-off.
Right.
And we'll see. Because as you know, women's basketball, they didn't even have brackets until 2022.
They did.
And you pretended you hadn't heard of that.
I really hadn't. I read it after you left, after you told me yesterday.
After I left?
No, after you told me yesterday.
Man, you're always wanting me to leave.
Really not. I read well, lots of people had stories, but I saw the New York Post had a big one on it.
And that was for Caitlin. They didn't even have brackets before Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark invented the brackets.
She's a bracket gal.
Well, except they had them for 40 years, but...
irregardless.
Irregardless. Question of the morning. Tiger Woods. He believes he can win it all at the Masters. Can it be? And Brandon says, yeah, and I can win the presidential election. Sure, he's Tiger, but he doesn't have a shot. That time has passed.
How about being on the leaderboard, the first level of leader that they show
No, because they'll have
on
like
Sunday?
On the little TV graphic where they have like
they have
6 or 7, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
That would be, back to your thing,
that?
that would just send shockwaves through golf.
So you don't even think he can do that?
Well, I think the first thing is what Troy addresses, and Troy doesn't believe it's going to happen. He says, I'll be surprised if he makes the cut.
Well, obviously that has to happen in order for the team.
And he's got the string of 23 tournaments in a row that he's played.
But that's not going to resonate with anybody.
That's where it starts. He did it. He made the cut.
I don't think there's any form of celebration there. I mean, if he's 25 shots back and he made the cut, it's like, so what? It's not like he needs it to make money.
Dale, long shot. I'm hoping for Finau. Great guy. Would be a cool local story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously,
Tony gets his major.
We hope for that every tournament he tees it up.
Yep.
Especially on this one.
Bob Casper, co-host, Real Golf Radio, live from Augusta. He joins us in 20 minutes. We'll have our Masters draft. Stick around for that. And coming up at 9 o'clock this morning, Britton Covey, former Ute, former Tipview High Star, now with the Eagles. He joins us at 9 right here on The Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I wish the season was more enjoyable for Jazz fans. All I see on Twitter is how miserable this is. Worst stretch for the Jazz in basically 50 years. It's as bad a basketball as I've ever seen in my life watching the Jazz. It's a low, and again, it's with a purpose, but this has been as unenjoyable of a basketball season as there's been in Utah, maybe ever.
When fans say that, it sounds like they're blaming the team. They didn't create the system. It doesn't behoove them to win basketball games. The Jazz didn't create the NBA system where it's actually an advantage to lose. What's the criticism? Because the criticism at halfway point is, it's in your best interest to suck, right? What are you doing? And then they suck. And now people are going like, well, how dare you suck this bad? What are you talking about? Is it in their best interest to suck or not?
It is.
And that's not their fault. That's the NBA's fault.
That is the NBA's fault.
If you don't like it, then stop watching the NBA. I don't buy into that I feel bad for Jazz fans. This is the sport. This is what comes along with it.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
The band of the day, Dashboard Confessional. Chris Carrabba, lead singer, 49th birthday. It's brought to you by Live Nation. For all of the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. The Utah Jazz get beat, PK, but it was a 3-point game in the second half. They lost 111-95. Are there Jazz fans out there taking a little solace in the fact a bunch of reserves made the world champs work hard?
I believe they broke a sweat.
Yes, says Steve. Baby steps. They showed some pride. They could have rolled over. But the youngins showed some fight.
Who?
He says it'll be easier to make decisions on guys like Yurtseven, Juzang, Simonic, Basic, etc. this offseason, having a better idea where they are or where they are or what they are or what they are not.
But what they're not is NBA rotational players on a contending team.
That is true. Can they be? Still having to judge some of these guys on potential. Johnny Juzang has gotten better. How much better can he get? Questions for Danny Ainge and Jay-Z to ponder this summer.
Well, their draft choices sucked.
It's a struggle.
They had no impact on the game whatsoever. Hendricks 1 of 5, 5 boards, 22 minutes. George 4 of 11. I suppose it's okay, but he had 5 turnovers. But the young guys, the true young guys, didn't do much. Sensabaugh 2 of 9.
Struggler, strugglist, if we can make up words.
So are you looking? You want Horton Tucker, who led the team in scoring. You want him off the team. You don't even want him on the team.
Nope.
I mean, he's become your whipping guy for some reason that I don't understand. So what young guy showed you something?
Yurtseven and Juzang is who Steve's going with. That's where he started.
Well, obviously, Juzang not last night. You're talking about 2 nights.
Coming off the 27-point game, he had a 5-point game. The law of numbers was in full effect.
Well, the scouting report is we got to stop Johnny Juzang.
2 of 8 shooting the ball.
And Yurtseven, 20 and 11. So he had. I mean, I have never
had the game of his life.
I don't know. I never even heard of him before he was
this
on
year.
this team.
Had the game of the season.
I mean, he was playing at Georgetown, and Georgetown has sucked for years.
It's been a long stretch.
Yeah. So is he anything there? The thing about it is the guys who had an impact on getting back into the game, which is so misleading. I mean, the Nuggets sleptwalked through quarters 2 and 3. And, it's a close game again, so we'll outscore you 24 to 15.
We'll turn on the Jets.
Yeah.
They held them to 17 points in the first quarter when it felt like it mattered, and they held them to 15 points in the fourth quarter when it felt like it might matter.
Right. So I'm supposed to praise that. I mean, right now, I don't see anybody who stepped on the floor that would be a major contributor in them winning 40 games next year.
I believe you're onto something there.
Yeah.
Tell me 8 guys who will be in the rotation, the core of it, if they're trying to win next year. I can't guarantee any of these guys will be those guys. I mean, somebody might play their way into it, but...
Do you have a problem with them giving Horton Tucker 32 minutes when you traded for a guy like Lewis and you elevated a kid like Preston off the G League? And Lewis doesn't even get in the game, and Preston plays 6 minutes, and Horton Tucker's taking 23 shots.
Yeah, I don't get why he's playing. I think they're frustrated with him. I don't think he's going to be back. So I don't get why he's playing.
Well, why would they be frustrated with him if they're giving him 32 minutes?
Because he's broken the offense numerous times.
Why would he get 32 minutes?
I don't get it. Yeah.
I don't care what he did 6 weeks ago. Yeah. He played 32 minutes.
I guess because he was putting the ball in the basket and they scored 17 points in the first quarter and they needed somebody to put the ball in the basket and he might do it.
Why?
Why
do they need somebody to put the ball in the basket?
Because that's the goal of the game. Although the goal of the game is also to win, and they haven't been trying to win since the All-Star break, so what are we doing here? Which is actually a question we're all asking each other on a regular basis and just shaking our heads. What are we doing here? We're getting through it and getting to the summer, and then we'll see either who they draft or who they acquire through a trade.
Yeah, but what 8th pick of the draft is going to come in and do marvelous wonders next season? No one. That doesn't mean he's not a good player.
Right.
They took Hayward at, 9?
And it took a while.
Yeah.
Which
is fine.
It was a process.
Yeah. And as it should be. He played 2 years in college, and you're going up against the pros. It shouldn't be. Because if you were able to make immediate impact, you wouldn't be drafted 8th. So the point I'm going with is that nothing that happened against the Nuggets gave me any form of progress.
Not the first
promise.
Not the first morning you could come in and say that. I mean, you're taking the long view here. If you could say that, you wouldn't just be waiting to get through the season and get to the offseason to see what moves the front office makes.
Right, but I could still say it if Hendricks and George and Sensabaugh did something that caught my eye, but they didn't.
They didn't, no.
I mean, Hendricks makes 1-3, and I thought they were going to release confetti.
That'd be a little overstated. And the confetti cannon goes off.
I mean, the guys that you want to have something happen
didn't have anything happen.
Yeah. So that sends up greater alarm. I would love to paint this as rosy as possible, but the fans don't want to hear that.
Nope.
They want to hear some form of truth. Not to say that I have absolute truth and everything I say is right. It's darn near close. But I'm not going to the game to see Horton Tucker take 23 shots.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. If only we had the answers. But instead, we get through 3 games and the rest of this week and wait for the offseason. See what the front office does. When we come back, Bob joins us from the Masters. Bob Casper's here. The Masters draft is coming up. We'll get his thoughts as Augusta gets ready to get going. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.